Everything you see right now is a lie. The colors, the shapes, the people around you, none of it is real. Your brain is constructing a fake version of reality every single second. And the most terrifying part, you will never know the difference. In the next 30 minutes, we are going to go deeper than you have ever gone before into the hidden machinery of your mind, into the illusions your brain creates, into the memories it rewrites, and into the reality it constructs for you every single day. By the end of this video, you will never see the world the same way again. Let us start with the most fundamental illusion of all. Most people believe their eyes work like a camera, that they see the world exactly as it is, every color, every shape, every detail, perfectly recorded and stored. But neuroscience has discovered something deeply unsettling about this belief. Your brain does not record reality, it creates it. Every single moment, your brain receives approximately 11 million bits of information from your senses, your eyes, your ears, your skin, your nose, your tongue, all sending signals simultaneously. But here is the problem: your conscious mind can only process about 50 bits of information per second. Think about that: 11 million bits coming in, 50 bits being processed. What happens to the rest? Your brain makes a decision. It selects what seems most important, it compresses everything else, and then, most remarkably of all, it fills in the gaps with what it expects to be there. Scientists call this predictive processing. Your brain is not a passive receiver of reality, it is an active constructor of it, constantly running a simulation based on your past experiences, your memories, your beliefs, and your expectations. And it shows you that simulations for the actual world outside. You are not seeing reality, you are seeing your brain's best prediction of reality. And those two things are very different. Let me give you proof of this right now. Proof that your brain is creating false reality at this very moment. Close your left eye. Hold your right hand out in front of you with your thumb up. Focus on your thumb with your right eye. Now slowly move your thumb to the right, keeping your eye fixed straight ahead. At a certain point, your thumb will disappear, completely vanish, and then reappear again as you move it further. That is your blind spot. Every human eye has one. It is the point where your optic nerve connects to your retina and where you are completely, totally blind. But here is what is remarkable: you never notice it in daily life. You do not walk around with a hole in your vision. Why? Because your brain invents what should be there. It looks at the surrounding area, figures out what pattern makes sense, and fills in that space with something it has generated itself. You're literally seeing something that does not exist right now, and you have absolutely no idea. But the blind spot is just the beginning. Scientists have discovered that the visual information coming from your eyes only accounts for about 20% of what you actually see. The remaining 80%, the vast majority of your visual experience, is generated entirely by your brain. Your brain is not a window to the world, it is a painter, and it is painting a picture for you every single moment, based not on what is actually there, but on what it thinks should be there. This is why optical illusions work. They are not tricks, they are glimpses behind the curtain. Moments where the painting your brain is creating becomes visible for what it actually is. Let's talk about color. The colors you see are not real. They do not exist in the outside world. Light itself has no color. It is simply electromagnetic radiation, waves of energy at different frequencies. The redness of a red apple does not exist in the apple. It does not exist in the light reflecting from it. It exists entirely inside your brain. Your eyes have three types of color receptors called cones. They detect different wavelengths of light and send signals to your brain. Your brain then interprets those signals and creates the experience of color. Different animals have completely different color experiences. Bees can see ultraviolet light that is completely invisible to us. Mantis shrimp have 16 types of color receptors compared to our three. Dogs see a much more limited color range. None of us are seeing reality. We are each seeing our brain's interpretation of electromagnetic signals. And it gets more personal than that. Scientists have discovered that no two people see exactly the same colors. The neural pathways that process color vary slightly from person to person. What you experience as red, the specific quality of that redness may be subtly different from what I experience. We have the same word for it. We point at the same things. But the inner experience, the actual feeling of seeing red, may never be exactly the same for any two human beings. Do you remember the famous dress photograph from 2015? Some people saw it as blue and black, others saw it as white and gold. The internet erupted in confusion. Scientists studied it extensively. What they found was that the difference came down to how individual brains interpret ambiguous lighting information. Neither group was wrong. Both groups were seeing exactly what their brain was constructing for them. The dress was not blue and black, it was not white and gold, it was both, depending entirely on which brain was looking at it. Now, we need to talk about something even more disturbing: your memories. Most people think of memory like a video recording, something that happened, got stored, and can be played back accurately whenever you need it. This is completely wrong. Memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction. Every single time you remember something, you're not playing back a stored file. You're rebuilding that memory from scratch, piece by piece, using whatever fragments your brain has retained and filling in the gaps with logic, expectation, and what makes sense given everything you now know. And every time you rebuild it, you change it slightly. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent over 4 decades studying this phenomenon. What she discovered shocked the scientific world. False memories, completely fabricated recollections of events that never happened, can be implanted in people's minds with remarkable ease. In one famous experiment, she convinced 25% of participants that they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, an event that had never actually occurred. Not only did they believe it, they began adding details, elaborating the false memory, making it richer and more real with each retelling. The implications of this are staggering. People have been sent to prison that spent decades behind bars based on eyewitness testimony. Someone was absolutely certain they saw a specific person commit a crime. They had no doubt. Their memory felt completely real and completely reliable, and they were wrong. Studies have shown that eyewitness testimony, long considered one of the most powerful forms of evidence in a courtroom, is actually one of the least reliable. Stress distorts memory, time distorts memory, suggestion distorts memory. Leading questions from investigators can literally implant false details into a witness's recollection. But here is the most unsettling part: you cannot tell the difference between a real memory and a false one. They feel exactly the same. The false memory has the same emotional weight, the same sense of certainty, the same feeling of truth. For your entire past, the story of who you are and where you came from is a reconstruction, built and rebuilt every time you think about it, shaped by your current beliefs, filtered through your current emotions, edited by everything you have learned since it happened. You do not have a past, you have a story about a past. And that story changes every time you tell it. We have established that your brain creates a false reality of the world around you, that it invents colors, that it fills in blind spots, that it rewrites your memories. But there is one more layer to this illusion, and it may be the most powerful of all. Your brain does not just construct a false reality, it actively maintains that false reality by filtering out anything that contradicts it. This is called confirmation bias, and it is one of the most studied and most powerful forces in all of human psychology. How it works: once you believe something, your brain begins unconsciously searching for evidence that confirms that belief and unconsciously ignoring or reinterpreting was evidence that contradicts it. देखो ठीक है, it isn't a deliberate choice. You are not aware it is happening. It operates completely below the level of consciousness. Your brain is literally changing what you see, what you notice, what you remember, or say, to support the story it has already decided is true. Scientists have demonstrated this in hundreds of experiments. In one classic study, participants were shown the same resume with identical qualifications and experience. Some were told the candidate was male, others were told the candidate was female. Those who believed the candidate was male rated the resume significantly higher. They were not lying, they were not being deliberately unfair. Their brains were simply filtering the same information through different lenses and producing different realities. This happens in every area of human life, in politics, in relationships, in science, in religion, in every belief you hold about yourself and the world. Two people can read the same news article, watch the same video, hear the same speech, and walk away with completely opposite understandings of what they just experienced. Both absolutely convinced that they understood it correctly, both certain that the other person is missing something obvious. They are not arguing about reality, they are arguing about two different realities that their brains have constructed from the same raw material. And here is the truly humbling part. You are doing this right now. As you watch this video, your brain is filtering everything I am saying through your existing beliefs, accepting what confirms them, finding reasons to dismiss what challenges them. The question is not whether this is happening. It is. The question is whether you are aware enough to catch it. Here is what is truly remarkable about everything we have discussed today. Modern neuroscience has spent decades and billions of dollars in research, discovering what ancient philosophers and spiritual traditions knew thousands of years ago. Plato, writing over 2400 years ago, described the human condition with one of the most powerful metaphors in the history of philosophy: the allegory of the cave. Imagine prisoners chained in a cave since birth. They can only see the wall in front of them. Behind them is a fire. Between the fire and the prisoners, people walk carrying objects. The shadows of those objects are projected onto the wall. For the prisoners, by it, those shadows are reality. They have never seen anything else. They name the shadows, they study them, they build an entire understanding of the world based on them, and then one prisoner is freed. He turns around, sees the fire, sees the real objects, walks out of the cave into the sunlight, and sees reality, true reality, for the first time. When he returns to tell the others, they do not believe him. They think he has gone mad. The shadows on the wall are real. They are certain of it. Plato was describing exactly what neuroscience has now proven. We are all prisoners of our own perception, seeing shadows, the brain's constructed reality, and mistaking them for truth. The Vedic tradition of ancient India went even further. They called this entire constructed reality Maya, the great illusion. And they did not mean that the physical world does not exist. They meant that the version of it we experience, filtered through our senses, constructed by our brains, shaped by our beliefs, is not the true nature of reality. The Buddhist tradition described it as the veil of perception, the idea that our suffering comes not from reality itself, but from our mistaken beliefs about reality. And the most remarkable thing, all three traditions, ancient Greek philosophy, Vedic wisdom, Buddhist teaching, arrived at the same conclusion completely independently. The reality you experience is not reality itself, it is a construction, a story, a simulation running inside your skull. And the path to freedom, they all agreed, begins with becoming aware of this fact. So, what do we do with this knowledge? If your brain is constructing a false reality, though, if your memories are fiction, if your beliefs are filtering everything you see, what can you actually do about it? The answer lies in what psychologists call metacognition and what ancient traditions called witnessing awareness. Metacognition simply means thinking about your thinking, observing your own mental processes, stepping back from your thoughts and watching them rather than being completely absorbed in them. Most people live their entire lives completely identified with their thoughts. A thought arises and they believe it completely. A memory surfaces and they accept it as accurate. A belief filters their perception and they never question it. Metacognition creates a gap, a space between the stimulus and the response, between the thought and the belief, between the perception and the reaction. In that gap lies freedom. Here are three practical ways to begin breaking free from your brain's false reality. First, question your certainty. Whenever you feel absolutely certain about something, take that as a signal to pause. Certainty is often the sign that confirmation bias is operating at full strength. Second, ask yourself, yeah, what evidence would change my mind? If you cannot think of any, that is a warning sign. Second, seek disconfirming evidence. Actively look for information that contradicts your beliefs, not to destroy them, but to test them. The beliefs that survive genuine scrutiny become stronger. The ones that do not needed to be updated. Third, practice observing your mind. Meditation, in its simplest form, is the practice of watching your own thoughts without getting lost in them. Even 5 minutes a day of simply observing your mental activity without judging it or following it begins to create the metacognitive awareness that ancient traditions spent lifetimes cultivating. The goal is not to eliminate the brain's constructive process, you cannot. It is fundamental to how the mind works. The goal is to become aware of it, to watch the construction happening, to know that the reality your brain is showing you is a model, also the truth, and to hold it with a little more lightness, a little more curiosity, a little less absolute certainty. We have covered an extraordinary amount of ground today. We have learned that your brain does not record reality, it constructs it. That 80% of what you see is generated by your mind, that your memories are rebuilt every time you access them and change each time. That confirmation bias filters everything you experience to match what you already believe. And we have learned that the wisest human beings in history, from Plato to the Vedic sages to the Buddhist teachers, all saw this truth clearly and all pointed toward the same solution: awareness, consciousness, the willingness to question your own reality. There is a beautiful line from the Upanishads, the ancient Indian philosophical texts, that speaks directly to everything we have discussed today. The mind is everything, what you think you become. But we can add something to that now. What you think your brain has already constructed for you, based on your past, your beliefs, your expectations. The question is, are you conscious enough to realize it? Conscious enough to step back from the construction, to see the painting your brain is making and choose to update it? Because the moment you realize your brain is creating a false reality, you gain something extraordinary: the power to create a better one. This is what the conscious past is all about. Not just understanding history, mystery, and the human mind, but using that understanding to become more conscious, more aware, more free. The past that your brain has constructed does not have to define your future. Thank you for watching. And remember, question everything, especially the things you are most certain about.